Okay, let's just jump right in. We're about to uncover a surprising and, frankly, kind of unsettling bias that secretly pulls the strings in our elections. It's this hidden force that most of us never even think about, but it has a massive impact on who actually wins.
So think about it for a second. The last time you were in a voting booth, staring at that list of names, what was really going through your head? Was it their experience, their specific policies? Or was it something else entirely that made you put a check mark next to one particular name? Because what if I told you that for a huge number of voters, the deciding factor isn't the candidate at all, but simply where their name happens to be printed on the ballot? Yeah, that's the big mystery we're unpacking today.
Now, before we get into the really weird psychological stuff, let's tackle the obvious. Why do candidates at the top of the ballot tend to get more votes? Are they just better?
Well, all the rational, common sense arguments really fall into two main buckets. First, you've got what we can call intrinsic traits. That's stuff about the candidates themselves. And then you've got extrinsic traits, which is all about the attention they get from the outside world.
So, on the intrinsic side, it's no secret that political parties are strategic, right? They don't just pick names out of a hat. They put their heavy hitters at the top of the list, the people with more experience, more funding, and the resources to run these really intense campaigns. And, naturally, those candidates get more votes. It makes sense. Then there's the extrinsic side. That number one spot on the ballot acts like a big flashing sign for the media. Journalists see that name first and give it more coverage, which creates this feedback loop of name recognition for voters. The more you see the name, the more likely you are to vote for it. Seems like a pretty open and shut case, right? Well, not so fast. Because here's where it gets weird. Even after you account for all of those logical factors, the experience, the money, the media coverage, top-listed candidates still get a massive unexplained boost in votes. The rational arguments just don't add up. Something else is going on under the surface. So what's the hidden clue? What's the secret ingredient? Well, it's not about the candidate or the campaign. The clue is inside our own heads. It's a simple, powerful, and deeply ingrained mental shortcut our brain loves to take. It's called the primacy effect. And this isn't some fringe political theory. This is a well-documented cognitive bias. It happens all the time. Whether you're looking at a restaurant menu, a list of survey answers, or a ballot, our brains are just wired to give special attention and weight to the very first option we see. Now, this bias plays out in a couple of ways in the voting booth. First, it's just the easy way out. For voters who don't have a ton of information, picking the first name is the path of least resistance. Second, you've got confirmation bias kicking in. We see that first name, and our brain immediately starts looking for reasons to agree with that choice, often before we even give the other candidates a fair shake. So, a great theory, right? But how on earth do you prove it? How do you separate this invisible psychological bias from all those other logical factors? Well, to do that, we have to look at a real-world political experiment, the 2014 Belgian elections. A team of researchers took on this massive task. They dug into the 2014 Belgian elections, a system where voters can cast what's called a preferential vote for a specific person on a party's list. Their goal was to surgically remove all the logical reasons a candidate might win and just see what, if anything, was left over. This funnel diagram from their study shows you their method perfectly. It's brilliant. Think of it like this. At the top, they pour in the total vote advantage of the first candidate has. Then they start filtering things out. First goes the effective media attention. Then they filter out political experience. What's left at the very bottom is what they call the pure primacy effect. And the initial numbers they were working with? Whoa, they were just staggering. Before any filtering, the candidate in that number one spot got a vote share 2.32 times larger than you'd normally expect. That is a huge head start. The question is, how much of that is genuine preference and how much is just bias? Well, here's what they found. Look at this chart. That tiny little slice, just about 5.6% of that massive advantage, comes from things like political experience. Media coverage? Okay, that's a bigger piece, almost 20%. But the rest, that massive blue slice, that's coming from something else entirely. And this right here, this is the smoking gun. Even after you strip away all the logical, substantive reasons for a candidate's success, there is still this powerful, invisible advantage that is locked into that number one spot on the ballot. So let this number sink in for a moment. Nearly 75%, three-quarters, of the extra votes the top candidate gets have nothing to do with their qualifications, their campaign, or how much press they got. It's just the primacy effect. It's a vote for the position, not for the person. And look, this is so much more than just a quirky little piece of psychology. This has really profound implications for how we think about elections, about representation, and about the very health of our democracy. The study's authors put it perfectly, and pretty bluntly. They said this implies that a large part of what we call preferential votes are in fact non-preferential. When a vote is just a mental shortcut for the first name on a list, can you even call it a preference anymore? And when you start to connect those dots, the takeaways are honestly a little chilling. It means many top candidates are winning with a false sense of democratic legitimacy that's powered by bias, not real support. It means political parties have this incredible, almost hidden power just by deciding who gets that top spot. And this whole idea that we're all moving toward a personalization of politics, where we vote for the person, not the party, maybe that's weaker than we think. So this leaves us with a final, really tough question to chew on. We all like to believe that democracy is a marketplace of ideas, where the best candidate rises to the top. But if our own brains have this built-in bias that favors not the best, but simply the first, what does that actually mean for the very foundation of how we choose our leaders?